The morning sun cast long shadows across the Seoul Defense Command Center as Captain Lee Min-ho stared at the screens displaying impossible readings. 12 massive objects had appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system overnight, each one larger than humanity's biggest space stations. The signals they transmitted were unlike anything in human databases. Yet somehow, the universal translators were working perfectly. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Lieutenant Park Soyeon from her communications station. Her voice carried a mixture of excitement and fear that Minho felt in his own chest. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. Ambassador Kithara stood nearly 3 meters tall, her crystalline body refracting light into rainbow patterns. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of millennia. "People of Earth, we are the hegemony. We come not as conquerors, but as guides. Your species has reached a critical point in its development, and we offer our assistance to help you avoid the mistakes that have destroyed countless civilizations before you." Minho watched the reactions of his crew. Some faces showed wonder, others suspicion. He kept his own expression neutral, though his mind raced through tactical possibilities. The alien ships had appeared without warning, bypassing every sensor. Earth-possessed. That level of technology suggested capabilities far beyond human understanding. In the days that followed, the hegemony's representatives met with world leaders in emergency sessions. They presented holographic displays showing the rise and fall of galactic civilizations. Speaking of wars that had consumed entire star systems and species that had vanished into extinction, Earth, they explained, stood at a crossroads. Join the hegemony as a junior partner, and humanity would be guided toward a prosperous future. Refuse, and Earth would likely follow the same path as so many dead worlds. The offer seemed generous. It's advanced medical technology that could eliminate disease and extend human lifespans. Clean energy systems that would end environmental concerns. Faster than light travel that would open the galaxy to human exploration. All they asked in return was trust and cooperation. Dr. Park Ju-won sat in her office at the Strategic Analysis Division. Surrounded by data streams and historical records the hegemony had shared. While politicians debated and media outlets celebrated humanity's entry into galactic civilization, she noticed patterns that made her stomach turn. Every species that had joined the hegemony as a junior partner followed the same timeline. Initial prosperity, gradual integration, didn't silence from the historical records. She pulled up files on the Zephyrians, who had joined the hegemony 3 centuries ago. The records showed their initial enthusiasm, their rapid technological advancement, and their grateful acceptance of hegemony guidance. Then the entries became sparse, focusing only on their contributions to hegemony projects. No mention of independent Zephyrian achievements, no records of their own cultural developments. It was as if they had stopped being Zephyrians and become something else entirely. The pattern repeated across 12 different species. Each had been welcomed as partners, each had prospered initially, and each had eventually disappeared into the hegemony's collective identity. Their worlds remained populated, their people continued to exist. But their independence had been quietly erased. Ji-won's fingers trembled as she compiled her report. The hegemony wasn't offering partnership. They were offering absorption. The process was gradual, almost gentle, but the end result was the same as any conquest. Humanity would cease to exist as an independent species. When she presented her findings to the Global Defense Council, the room fell silent. President Martinez of the Americas Federation leaned forward, his face pale. "Are you certain about this analysis, Doctor? The pattern is consistent across all available data," Gi-won replied. "The hegemony doesn't destroy civilizations. They integrate them so completely that within a few generations, those civilizations lose all sense of independent identity." Defense Minister Chen from the Asian Coalition spoke up. "What do you recommend?" "Play along," Gi-won said quietly. "We accept their offer publicly, express gratitude for their guidance, and begin integration procedures. But privately, we prepare for the worst-case scenario." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would appear to embrace the hegemony's offer, while secretly maintaining its independence. It was a dangerous game, but the alternative was slow extinction. 3 days later, Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship as humanity's leaders announced their decision to join the hegemony. The alien vessels in orbit pulsed with what seemed like approval, and Ambassador Kithra's crystalline form shimmered with satisfaction. Earth has chosen wisely, she broadcast to the planet below. The hegemony will guide you toward a future of prosperity and peace. Your species will contribute its unique perspectives to our collective knowledge. As the celebrations began on Earth's surface, Minho received a coded message on his personal terminal. The orders were brief but carried the weight of humanity's future. Protocol Lazarus is now active. Prepare for Phase 1 implementation. Trust no one beyond the inner circle. He deleted the message and looked out at the alien vessels surrounding Earth. They appeared peaceful, even protective, but Minho knew better. The real war for humanity's survival was just beginning. The enemy had no idea that their new junior partners were already planning their resistance. The hegemony had made one critical error in their calculations. They had assumed that humanity would react like every other species they had encountered. But humans had a particular talent that their new allies had underestimated: the ability to smile while sharpening knives. 6 months after first contact, the skyline of Seoul had transformed. Beyond recognition, gleaming spires reached toward the clouds, their surfaces made from materials that seemed to bend light itself. The air was cleaner than it had been in decades, and the hospitals reported 0 cases of cancer, heart disease, or any of the ailments that had plagued humanity for centuries. To most people walking the streets, it felt like paradise had arrived. Captain Lee Minho stood in the renovated command center of the Earth Defense Force, watching technicians install new hegemony equipment into their systems. The alien technology was beautiful, all smooth curves and pulsing lights that seemed almost alive. The upgrades promised to make human ships faster, stronger, and more efficient than ever before. "The new navigation system is incredible," reported Lieutenant Park Soyeon, her eyes bright with excitement. "We can calculate jump coordinates in seconds instead of hours. The weapon systems are 3 times more powerful. The shields can withstand attacks that would have destroyed our old ships." Minho nodded, but his attention was focused on the small crystalline device that had been integrated into every control panel. The hegemony engineers called it a harmony interface, designed to ensure all human systems worked perfectly with alien technology. What they didn't mention was that it also transmitted every command, every conversation, and every tactical decision back to the hegemony fleet. Across the city, Dr. Park Juan sat in her office, reviewing reports from around the globe. The pattern was the same everywhere. New hospitals with alien medical equipment that required hegemony technicians to operate, power plants that generated unlimited clean energy but could only be maintained by alien engineers, transportation networks that moved people faster than ever before but relied entirely on hegemony navigation systems. Her computer chimed with an incoming message from her research team. The findings made her blood run cold. Every piece of hegemony technology contained monitoring systems, not just basic operational data, but detailed scans of human behavior, decision-making patterns, and even emotional responses. The aliens weren't just upgrading human civilization, they were studying it at the most fundamental level. "We're becoming transparent to them," she whispered to herself, staring at the data streams on her screen. "They know everything about us, but we know nothing about them." The integration process had been subtle but relentless. Human leaders found themselves paired with hegemony advisors who attended every meeting, offered suggestions for every decision, and gradually began to influence policy. The advisors never gave orders directly, but their recommendations carried the weight of superior knowledge and technology. President Martinez discovered this firsthand when he attempted to approve a new military research project. His advisor, a tall figure named Velthok, had simply smiled and pointed out that such research was unnecessary now that the hegemony was providing superior technology. The project was quietly canceled, and Martinez found himself wondering when he had stopped making independent decisions. Meanwhile, Admiral Kim Hein-woo move through the shadows of the New World Order. While the surface of human society celebrated their alien benefactors, Kim coordinated a network of military officers who shared his growing concerns. They met in old subway tunnels, abandoned buildings, and remote locations where hegemony monitoring was limited. "They're not just watching us," Kim reported to his inner circle during one such meeting. "They're learning how we think, how we react, how we make decisions. Every interaction is being recorded and analyzed." Colonel Zhang Wei, commander of the Asian Defense Grid, leaned forward. "My technicians have found something interesting in the new ship designs. The hegemony components aren't just monitoring our systems. They have remote shutdown capabilities. They can disable our entire fleet with a single command." The revelation sent chills through the assembled officers. They had suspected surveillance, but the idea that their own weapons could be turned off remotely was terrifying. It meant that humanity's military existed only because the hegemony allowed it to exist. Kim stood up, his face grim. "We need to accelerate our preparations. I want hidden facilities on every continent, backup systems that use only human technology, and communication networks that bypass all hegemony infrastructure. If they're planning to pull the plug on our independence, we need to be ready." Secret construction projects began immediately. Using resources diverted from official projects, human engineers built facilities in remote locations, underground bunkers, and even hidden installations in the asteroid belt. The work was dangerous and had to be done without attracting attention from the ever-present hegemony observers. Dr. Park continued her analysis. Diving deeper into the historical records of other species that had joined the hegemony, she discovered that the integration process always followed the same timeline. Initial prosperity lasted about a year, followed by gradual assumption of control over the next 18 months. After that, the client species became completely dependent on hegemony systems for survival. Her worst fears were confirmed when she calculated Earth's current position in the cycle. Humanity had 9 months left before reaching the point of no return. The end came with a formal announcement from Ambassador Cathara. She appeared on every screen across Earth, her crystalline form radiating authority and benevolence. "Citizens of Earth," she began, "your integration into the hegemony has proceeded remarkably well. However, recent security concerns throughout the galaxy require us to take additional protective measures." Her words sent ice through Minho's veins. He knew what was coming before she said it. "For the safety of all species within the hegemony, human military forces will be gradually integrated into our command structure. This process will begin immediately and will be completed within 18 months. We understand this may cause some concern, but please remember that we have only your best interests at heart." As the transmission ended, Minho's secure communication device buzzed with an encrypted message from Admiral Kim. "The mask is slipping. Begin Phase 2 immediately." The Golden Age was ending. The real test of humanity's survival was about to begin. The first sign of trouble came when the colony ships stopped returning from Mars. Captain Lee Minho stood in the command center, staring at empty communication. Channels that should have been filled with routine status reports from the Red Planet. 3 months had passed since the last transmission from New Busan Colony. And the hegemony's explanation was simple. The colonists had been relocated to a safer location for their own protection. "Protection from what?" Minho had asked Ambassador Cathara during their weekly briefing. Her crystalline form had shimmered with what seemed like amusement. "The galaxy contains many dangers that young species cannot comprehend. We have moved your people to facilities where they can be properly cared for." The word facilities made Minho's skin crawl, but he kept his expression neutral. World similar relocations were happening. Lunar mining stations had been upgraded with hegemony personnel. The asteroid belt research outposts were now under alien management. Slowly but surely, humanity was being pulled back to Earth, concentrated and controlled. Dr. Park Ji-won discovered the truth about the medical treatments that had seemed so miraculous. Hidden in the data streams she had been monitoring, she found evidence of genetic modifications being introduced through the hegemony's medical systems. The changes were subtle, affecting neurotransmitter production and hormone levels. Over several generations, humans would become more passive, more willing to accept authority without question. "They're not just controlling us," she reported too. Her secret research team, "They're changing us. It's making us into something that can't resist, even if we wanted to." The restrictions came gradually, each one explained as necessary for safety or efficiency. Independent research laboratories were closed down to prevent dangerous experimentation. Universities found their curriculums changed to focus on approved subjects. Cultural festivals were canceled if they didn't align with hegemony values of harmony and cooperation. Dr. Choi Sung-yin, a philosophy professor at Seoul National University, had been writing articles about the importance of human independence and self-determination. His work was popular among students and intellectuals, who were beginning to question the rapid changes in their society. When his latest essay was published, calling for humans to remember their identity before it was too late, the response was swift. Minho watched the news reports with growing alarm. Protest movements were being disbanded by local authorities working with hegemony advisors. Books were being removed from libraries. Even private conversations were being monitored through the communication networks that everyone now depended on. The breaking point came on a cold Tuesday morning in Seoul. Ambassador Kathara appeared on every screen across Earth, her usual warm demeanor replaced by something harder and more demanding. She stood in what appeared to be a courtroom, flanked by other hegemony representatives whose species Minho had never seen before. "Citizens of Earth," she began, her voice carrying new authority. "The integration process has revealed certain elements within your society that pose a threat to galactic stability. For the safety of all species within the hegemony, we require the immediate surrender of 3 individuals for re-education." The names appeared on the screen: Dr. Park Ji-won, Admiral Kim Hain-woo, and Dr. Choi Sung-yeon. Their faces were displayed alongside charges of promoting dangerous ideologies and threatening galactic harmony. President Martinez, flanked by his own hegemony advisor, appeared on screen looking pale and shaken. "The Earth government cannot comply with this request.
Ow!
These individuals are citizens of Earth and have committed no crimes under our laws." Kathira's expression didn't change, but the air around her seemed to grow colder. "Your laws are no longer relevant. The hegemony's authority supersedes all local regulations. You have 24 hours to surrender these individuals, or we will be forced to take more direct action." The transmission ended, leaving the world in stunned silence. Within hours, demonstrations erupted in major cities. People who had been grateful for the hegemony's gifts now realized the price they were being asked to pay. But the protests were quickly suppressed by local security forces using hegemony-enhanced equipment. Minho received an encrypted message from Admiral Kim. "Emergency meeting. Location 7. 1 hour." They met in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Seoul, one of the few places where hegemony surveillance couldn't reach. Kim's face was grim as he addressed the assembled officers. "Shown their true colors," he said quietly. "The integration timeline has been accelerated. Our sources indicate that similar ultimatums are being delivered to other species throughout the galaxy. The hegemony is tightening its grip." Dr. Park, who had been brought to the meeting under heavy security, looked exhausted but determined. "I've analyzed their technology more thoroughly. Kill switches aren't just in our military systems. They're in everything. Power grids, water treatment plants, food production facilities. They can shut down human civilization with a single command. The revelation sent chills through the assembled group. They had suspected control, but the scope of the hegemony's power was staggering. "There's more," Park continued. "I've been tracking their communication patterns. This isn't the first time. They've done this. It's the same ultimatum, the same timeline, the same threats. They've perfected this process over centuries." Kim stood up, his jaw set with determination. "Then they're about to learn something new. Protocol Lazarus was designed for exactly this scenario. It's time to activate Phase 2. Minho felt a surge of hope mixed with fear. For months, they had been preparing for this moment, building hidden facilities and developing countermeasures. Now they would discover if their preparations were enough. Above them, the hegemony fleet waited in orbit, confident in their superiority. They had done this dozens of times before, and no species had ever successfully resisted. But they had never encountered humans who had been watching, learning, preparing for exactly this moment. The mask had finally slipped completely. Now the real war would begin. The 24-hour deadline passed in silence. Ambassador Kithra stood on the bridge of the hegemony flagship, her crystalline form reflecting the cold light of the stars. The humans had refused to surrender the three troublemakers, just as every other species had done before them. It was time for the demonstration that would break their will to resist. "Begin the pacification sequence," she commanded her bridge. "Crew, target all human military installations. Show them the futility of resistance." Across Earth's orbital space, hegemony weapons platforms that had been disguised as communication arrays revealed their true nature. Energy beams lanced out toward human satellites, space stations, and defense platforms. The weapons were precise and devastating, turning billions of credits worth of human technology into glowing debris in seconds. Captain Lee Minho watched the destruction from what appeared to be a damaged command bunker deep beneath. Seoul. The screens showed human installations exploding one by one, their wreckage spinning away into the void. To any observer, it looked like humanity's military capability was being systematically destroyed. "Phase 1 complete," reported Lieutenant Park Soyan, though her voice carried no sadness. "All decoy installations have been successfully eliminated." Allowed himself a small smile. The hegemony had just wasted enormous amounts of energy destroying empty shells and obsolete equipment. The real human military infrastructure remained hidden throughout the solar system, waiting for the moment to strike back. On the hegemony flagship, tactical displays showed the complete elimination of human space-based defenses. The aliens had expected panic, surrender, and pleas for mercy. Instead, they received only silence from Earth's surface. "Strange," muttered Commander Vexthera, Kithra's military advisor. "Previous species always attempted to negotiate after the demonstration. Why are the humans not responding?" Kithra's expression remained confident. "Fear has made them speechless. Prepare landing forces for planetary occupation. This phase is complete." But 3 minutes later, the silence ended in a way no one expected. The first attack came from an asteroid that had been classified as a mining station. What the hegemony had dismissed as a primitive rock-cutting operation suddenly revealed itself as a military base. Weapons that appeared crude and simple unleashed devastation on the nearest hegemony vessel. The alien ship's shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, offered no protection against kinetic projectiles that punched through them like paper. "Possible," breathed Vexthera, as his displays showed the damaged ship spinning out of control. "Their technology is centuries behind ours. Those weapons shouldn't be able to penetrate our defenses." More attacks followed in rapid succession. From hidden bases on Luna, Mars, and scattered asteroids throughout the solar system, human forces struck with weapons the hegemony had never seen before. Ships that looked like primitive metal boxes suddenly demonstrated stealth capabilities that made them invisible to alien sensors. Torpedoes that seemed to be simple explosives phased through hegemony shields. Using quantum technology that the aliens had abandoned as impractical, Minho coordinated the assault from his hidden command center. "Target their weapons platforms first," he ordered. Dr. Park's analysis shows they're vulnerable to electromagnetic disruption. The human attack was unlike anything the hegemony had encountered. While other species had tried to match alien technology, directly, humans had developed asymmetric warfare strategies. They used the hegemony's own networked systems against them.
Oh, wait.
Introducing computer viruses that spread through alien communication networks like wildfire. Ships that should have been impervious to attack found their systems failing as human programmers. Exploited weaknesses that had been built into standardized. Hegemony technology. Dr. Park Ji-won watched the battle from her secret research facility. For months, her team had been analyzing every piece of hegemony technology they could access. They had discovered that the aliens' greatest strength was also their greatest weakness: standardization. Every hegemony ship used the same shield frequency, the same communication protocols, the same defensive systems. Once humans found a way to exploit one vulnerability, it worked against the entire fleet. Their quantum torpedoes are devastating their formation, she reported to Minho. The aliens never expected weapons that could phase through their shields. They're completely unprepared for this type of attack. On Earth's surface, Admiral Kim Hyun-woo was leading a different kind of battle. Throughout the planet, human military personnel who had been integrated into hegemony command structures suddenly revealed their true loyalties. Alien advisors who had felt secure in their positions found themselves surrounded by humans who had been preparing for this moment since first contact. The uprising was swift and coordinated. Hegemony personnel who had been monitoring human facilities discovered that their hosts had been monitoring them in return. Every alien communication, every tactical decision, every strategic discussion had been recorded and analyzed. The humans knew exactly where each hegemony representative was located and how to neutralize them in the space around Earth. The hegemony fleet was in chaos. Ships that had dominated the galaxy for centuries were being destroyed by weapons they had dismissed. As primitive, their standardized technology, which had been their strength against other species, had become a liability against humans who had deliberately developed diverse and incompatible systems. Ambassador Cathara watched her fleet disintegrate with growing disbelief. How is this possible? She demanded. Their technology is inferior. Their ships are crude. They only achieved spaceflight a few hundred years ago. But even as she spoke, another hegemony vessel exploded under the assault of human kinetic weapons. The tactical displays showed human forces emerging from hiding places throughout the solar system, revealing a military infrastructure that had been completely invisible to hegemony sensors. Ma'am, reported her communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Minho's face appeared on the screen, his expression calm and professional. Ambassador Cathara. This is Captain Lee Minho of the Earth Defense Force. Your orbital weapons have been destroyed.
Oh.
Your fleet is in disarray, and your ground forces are neutralized. I believe you wanted to know how we prepared so effectively for this encounter. Kithara's crystalline form trembled with rage and confusion. Couldn't have known. We've done this to dozens of species. None of them were prepared. Minho's smile was cold and satisfied. That's where you made your mistake. You assumed we were just another species to be absorbed. But humans have one talent you never accounted for. We learn from history. And we've been watching you for a very long time. The hegemony's perfect record of conquest had finally been broken, and they were about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology at all. It was the ability to think several moves ahead. Captain Lee Minho stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship, watching the scattered remains of the hegemony fleet regrouping in the distance. Ambassador Kitharus's crystalline form flickered on his main screen. Her usual composure replaced by something humans rarely saw from their former overlords. Genuine confusion. This is impossible, she repeated, her voice carrying disbelief. No. Species has ever resisted the integration process. Your technology is primitive. Your civilization is young. How could you have prepared for an encounter you knew nothing about? Minho exchanged a glance with Dr. Park Ji-won, who had joined him. On the bridge. Her months of analysis had led to this moment, and now it was time to reveal the truth that would reshape the galaxy. We knew everything about you, Minho said calmly. We've been watching the hegemony for over 30 years, the statement hit. Kythera like a physical blow? Watching us? That's impossible. Your species hadn't even developed faster than light communication when we first detected your world. Dr. Park stepped forward, her voice steady and professional. We didn't need faster than light communication. We had something better: patience and the ability to observe. Our radio telescopes and deep space sensors have been tracking hegemony movements across the galaxy since the 1990s. The revelation sent shockwaves through the hegemony command structure. Kythera's form shimmered as she processed the implications. You were watching us conquer other species? We watched you approach the Kepler 442 system in 2001, Park continued. We observed your first contact with the Aquarians, courted your offer of partnership, and monitored the integration process over the following decades. We saw the same pattern repeat with the Centauri colonies, the Vegan Commonwealth, and 9 other civilizations. Minho pulled up holographic displays showing star charts marked with dates and locations. Every conquest followed the same timeline. First contact, partnership offers, gradual integration, increasing control, and finally complete absorption. The process took exactly 18 months from the ultimatum phase to total subjugation. But you couldn't have understood our technology, Kythera protested. Your species was still using chemical rockets. We didn't need to understand your technology, Park replied. We needed to understand your psychology. Every species you conquered made the same mistake. They tried to match your technological superiority. They focused on building better weapons, faster ships, and stronger shields. They never realized that the game was rigged from the beginning. The truth was becoming clear, and it terrified the hegemony leadership. For centuries, they had believed their success came from technological superiority. Now they were learning that their greatest advantage had been the predictable reactions of the species they encountered. So instead of trying to match your technology, Minho continued, we developed countermeasures. We knew you would offer upgrades to our military systems, so we built hidden facilities using only human technology. We knew you would monitor our communications, so we created backup networks you couldn't access. We knew you would integrate your systems with ours, so we developed viruses specifically designed to exploit your standardized technology. The scope of humanity's preparation was staggering. While the hegemony had been congratulating themselves on another successful integration, humans had been planning their resistance for 3 decades. Every gift the aliens had offered, every technological upgrade, every system improvement had been anticipated and countered. The medical treatments, Kythera said, her voice barely a whisper. You knew about the genetic modifications? We knew, Park confirmed. We developed neutralizing agents and distributed them through our food supply. Your compliance modifications were negated before they could take effect. We let you believe they were working while we built our resistance. Communication channels suddenly filled with new voices. Across the galaxy, other species were broadcasting their own rebellions. The Aquarians, thought to be peacefully integrated, revealed that they had been secretly maintaining their independence for decades. The Centauri colonies announced their withdrawal from the hegemony. One by one, civilizations that had seemed completely absorbed began declaring their freedom. This is impossible, Kythera repeated, but her voice now carried desperation rather than disbelief. The integration process is perfect. It has never failed. It failed because you never understood. The most important lesson of conquest, Minho replied. You can't absorb a species that knows it's being absorbed. We didn't just resist your integration. We turned it into our advantage. Every system you gave us, every upgrade you installed, every advisor you assigned became a source of intelligence about your capabilities and weaknesses. The hegemony fleet was now receiving distress calls from across their empire. Species that had been considered completely loyal were revealing that they had been preparing for this moment for generations. The rebellion wasn't just happening on Earth. It was spreading throughout the galaxy like wildfire. Admiral Kim Hyun-woo's voice crackled through the communication system from Earth's surface. Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different star systems. The hegemony's client species are declaring independence faster than we can process the messages. Kythera's image flickered as her ship's power systems began to fail. The computer viruses that Dr. Park's team had developed were spreading through the hegemony's networked systems, causing cascading failures throughout their fleet. "What do you want?" she asked finally, the fight gone out of her voice. "We want what every species wants," Minho replied. "Independence. The right to determine our own future. The freedom to succeed or fail on our own terms." The negotiation that followed was unlike anything the hegemony had ever experienced. Instead of dictating terms to a conquered species, they had found themselves accepting conditions from a coalition of former client species led by humanity. The age of hegemony dominance was ending, not with a great battle, but with the simple recognition that their system could no longer function. As the alien fleet began its retreat, Minho stood at the observation deck of his flagship, watching the stars that had once represented threats to humanity. The hegemony had claimed to lead the galaxy because they possessed superior technology. But humanity had proven that the most powerful technology of all was the ability to think. Beyond the immediate moment, the galaxy would never be the same. And Earth, the young species that had supposedly needed guidance, had taught the oldest civilizations the most important lesson of all. True strength comes not from dominating others, but from understanding them well enough to stay free.